In today's Reddit story, my fiancé secretly planned to dump me after our wedding and take half of everything. He's just a temporary husband, she joked with her friends. I just smiled and let her think she won, until she saw what was really in the prenup. I'm Lucas, 33M, and for the past 3 years, I thought I had found the love of my life in my fiancée, Vanessa, 31F. We were a perfect match, or so I thought. I had a good job, a house I worked my ass off to afford, and I was ready to build a future with her. She had me convinced that she was in love with me, that we were a team, that we were going to start our happily ever after once we said, I do. But then I found out the truth. She wasn't marrying me for love. She was marrying me for my money, and she planned to throw me away the second she got half of everything. I should have been angry. I should have been devastated. Instead, I smiled, because Vanessa had no idea that she had just sealed her own fate. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. Vanessa and I had been engaged for 6 months and were knee-deep in wedding planning. One day she told me she was going out for a girls' night with her friends. No big deal, right? Wrong. That night, I was in the office catching up on work when her iPad pinged on the desk. She had left it there earlier, and normally I wouldn't have snooped. But the message that popped up made my stomach drop. He has no idea. LMAO. It was from her best friend, Chelsea. I hesitated, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened the group chat, and that's when I saw everything. The messages were horrific. Not just a misunderstanding, not a bad joke. A full-blown, months-long plan to marry me, take half of everything, and then leave. Vanessa. God, I can't believe I'm actually going through with this wedding. This is gonna be the easiest money I've ever made. Chelsea. Lol, girl, you're a savage. He really thinks you love him? Of course. I deserve this. I put in 3 years of pretending. After all that, I should get something out of it. You mean half of it? Exactly. He's just a temporary husband. Once the divorce papers are signed, I'll finally be free and rich. I felt physically sick, but it got worse. Another friend, Lauren, chimed in. Girl, what if he doesn't go for it? What if he fights you in court? Vanessa. Lol, please. Lucas is a moron. He doesn't even have a prenup. I made sure of that. Chelsea. Damn, you really played the long game. Respect. I just have to suffer through a few more months of acting like I care, and then boom, divorce settlement. I'm gonna be set for life. They were laughing about it, laughing about using me, laughing about ruining me, like I was some disposable ATM that had stupidly fallen in love with the wrong person. I sat there staring at the screen, my whole world shattering around me. The woman I had planned to marry, the woman I had trusted, was waiting to stab me in the back the second she could cash in. I should have confronted her. I should have kicked her out that night. But instead, I took a deep breath and I smiled, because I realized something. She thought she had won. She thought she had played me, but she had made one fatal mistake. She underestimated me. And now, I was about to become her worst nightmare. I wasn't just going to leave Vanessa. No, that would be too easy. She had spent 3 years pretending to love me, stringing me along, making me believe we were building a future together, all while secretly planning to destroy me. She thought she was playing a game. She had no idea that I had just changed the rules. The very next day, I took the first step toward her downfall. I met with my lawyer. His name was Jonathan, and he had seen his fair share of gold diggers. I laid everything out. The iPad messages, Vanessa's plan to divorce me and take half, the fact that she thought I was too dumb to get a prenup. Jonathan leaned back in his chair and smirked. Oh, she's gonna regret this. Together, we drafted the most ironclad, bulletproof prenup in existence. Some of the key terms included: if she initiates the divorce, she gets nothing. If infidelity is discovered, she must pay me a settlement. All assets acquired post-marriage remain solely mine. She has no claim to my house, cars, or income. This wasn't just a prenup. This was a trap. A legal landmine that Vanessa was about to walk straight into. The hardest part was making her believe that I was still the same clueless, love-blind fool. So I acted normal. I still kissed her. Still talked about the wedding. Still let her think she had me wrapped around her finger. I knew Vanessa wouldn't blindly sign a prenup. She thought she was smart, thought she had outplayed me, so I needed to bait her. I scheduled a fake meeting with my lawyer and made sure Vanessa accidentally overheard a phone call. I was in my office, talking just loud enough for her to catch snippets. Yeah, I don't care about the prenup. It's just standard. I'd never actually enforce it. Pause. Dude, come on. You think I'd ever take money from Vanessa? It's not like she's after my assets. Another pause. No, she already agreed to sign it. It's just a formality. I heard footsteps stop outside my office. I smirked. She had taken the bait. Later that night, I brought up the prenup again. Babe, my lawyer says it's pretty basic. But if it makes you feel better, we can add something for you too. Her eyes narrowed. Like what? I shrugged. Maybe a clause that guarantees you something small if we split, like a luxury trip or a little settlement, just so you feel safe. I made sure to say it casually, like I didn't care. That's when Vanessa took the bait completely. She sighed dramatically and gave me her best fake-loving smile. Fine, if it makes you happy, I'll sign it, but only if we add my clause too. I pretended to hesitate. Are you sure? You don't have to. Vanessa grinned. No, I don't want you to feel bad, babe. It's just a piece of paper. She thought she had manipulated me into giving her a tiny settlement so she wouldn't get suspicious. But what she didn't know, her clause was legally worthless. Jonathan and I made sure of it. It was deliberately vague, written in a way that made her think she was getting something, but legally, it held no real value. So when she finally signed the prenup, she did it thinking she had won. But in reality, she had just handed me the ultimate weapon against her. I wanted to laugh in her face, but instead, I just kissed her forehead and told her I loved her. Because now, the trap was set. Once the prenup was signed, I started laying the groundwork for the real revenge. I quietly transferred my assets into protected accounts. I stopped adding money to our joint wedding fund. I encouraged Vanessa to spend more, knowing full well she'd never see a dime of it again. Meanwhile, Vanessa? She was more confident than ever. She kept bragging to her friends about how she was going to divorce me. She started making plans for her post-divorce life. She even stopped pretending to be affectionate, acting like she had already won. I just smiled. She had no idea that she had signed away her entire future. And on our wedding day, she was about to seal her fate forever. Vanessa thought she had me exactly where she wanted me. She had played her part well, smiling sweetly, acting like the devoted fiancée, and pretending to love me while secretly planning her escape the moment the ink dried on the marriage certificate. She had no idea that the prenup she so confidently signed had already doomed her. And now, she was about to walk down the aisle straight into a trap. The big day. A gold digger's dream. The morning of the wedding, Vanessa was positively glowing. Not because she was marrying the man she loved. No, she was smug, confident. She thought she was about to pull off the biggest con of her life. Her bridesmaids surrounded her, helping her get ready, and I knew exactly what they were talking about. Chelsea, her best friend, had been hyping her up for months, calling me her golden ticket. Lauren, the one with morals, had been nervous about the plan but never actually stopped Vanessa from going through with it. And Vanessa? She was basking in her own success. She had picked out the most expensive venue. She had maxed out my credit cards on last-minute wedding luxuries. She kept flashing that fake, adoring smile, knowing she'd be free soon enough. I watched from across the room, playing my part perfectly. I was the loving, clueless groom. The guy who blindly adored his fiancée. The temporary husband who had no idea that his perfect wife-to-be was waiting to stab him in the back. She had no idea that I was waiting for her to do it. When she walked down the aisle, everyone saw a beautiful bride. I saw a woman walking straight into her own demise. As we stood at the altar, hand in hand, she squeezed my fingers just a little too tightly. That was her final act of deception. One last convincing performance before she cashed out. "Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the officiant asked. She beamed. "I do." I smiled back. "And do you, Lucas, take Vanessa?" "I do," I said smoothly, my voice steady. Because in that moment, I was more certain than I had ever been in my life. She thought she was securing the bag. But as she slid the ring onto my finger, she unknowingly locked herself into her own nightmare. After the wedding, we flew to a 5-star resort in the Maldives. Vanessa had planned the entire honeymoon, picking the most expensive, luxurious locations. She had zero hesitation in spending my money, swiping my cards like she was already entitled to everything. I let her dig herself in deeper. Let her spend money she would never see again. Let her think she was in control. She kissed me, held my hand, and played the perfect wife, just enough to make sure I was still completely fooled, or so she thought. The truth? I was memorizing every single lie she told. I was counting down the days until she made her move. Because the second she did, she was done. 3 months into our perfect marriage, Vanessa started planting the seeds for her grand escape. She thought she was being subtle. She started picking fights over nothing. She began joking about how couples sometimes grow apart. She made comments about needing financial security in case things didn't work out. She was testing the waters, trying to see if she could manipulate me into thinking divorce was inevitable. And then, one night, she made her move. We were sitting in our dining room, drinking wine. The mood was light, but I could tell she was working up to something. "Lucas, babe, we need to talk." I looked up, pretending to be completely oblivious. "Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind?" She sighed dramatically, like this was so painful for her. "I just feel like maybe we rushed into this. Maybe we're not as compatible as we thought." I let fake sadness creep into my expression. "You don't think we're happy?" I asked softly. She reached for my hand. "I love you, babe. I really do. But I think we might need some space, a break. And maybe it would be best if we go our separate ways while things are still good." I held her gaze, forcing myself not to grin. "You're saying you want a divorce?" She nodded slowly. "I think it's for the best." I leaned back, sighing like my heart was breaking. And then I said the words that would destroy her. "All right, we'll go to the lawyer's office tomorrow." She tried to hide her excitement. She had no idea that she had just triggered her own downfall. Vanessa was radiant when we arrived at the lawyer's office. She had dressed to impress, a designer dress, expensive jewelry, and that smug little smile that made me want to laugh. To her, this was the final step in her plan. She had endured a few months of marriage and was now here to cash out. I played along, keeping my expression neutral as we walked inside. The receptionist greeted us, and we were led into a sleek, minimalist conference room. Vanessa took her seat like she already owned the place. She didn't realize she was about to get the worst news of her life. Jonathan, my lawyer, was already waiting for us. He was calm and collected, scanning Vanessa with an expression that said he had seen her type before. "Mrs. Carter," he greeted, nodding to her. She beamed. "Oh, you can call me Vanessa. I suppose I won't be a Carter much longer." I almost rolled my eyes. Jonathan gave me a quick glance before opening a thick folder filled with documents. "So let's discuss the terms of your divorce settlement," he said smoothly. Vanessa perked up. "Yes, let's." Jonathan flipped through a few pages, then paused for effect. "Now, just to confirm, you're the one initiating this divorce, correct?" he asked. Vanessa nodded. "Yes, I think it's for the best." "Right?" Jonathan said, tapping a paper. "In that case, we'll begin with the terms outlined in the prenuptial agreement you signed before marriage." For the first time, Vanessa's smug confidence wavered. "Wait," she said slowly. "Prenup?" Jonathan barely glanced up. "Yes, the legally binding prenuptial agreement you signed before the wedding. We'll be following those terms exactly." The room was silent for a moment. Then Vanessa laughed. "Oh, please, Lucas and I already talked about this. That prenup is just a formality. It doesn't actually mean anything." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, it absolutely does." Then he turned to page 1 and started reading. "As per the signed prenuptial agreement," Jonathan said, voice steady, "if Mrs. Carter initiates a divorce, she will receive no financial compensation, assets, or spousal support from Mr. Carter." Vanessa's smile froze. Jonathan continued, unbothered. "Furthermore, due to the infidelity and financial fraud clauses," her head snapped up. "Excuse me, what?" Jonathan barely blinked. "Any proven intent to manipulate, deceive, or defraud Mr. Carter in financial matters results in a penalty payment owed to Mr. Carter." I leaned forward, resting my chin on my hands. "Vanessa, you really should have read the fine print." Vanessa's face drained of color. Her hands clenched the armrests of her chair, nails digging into the leather. "No," she whispered. "This has to be a joke." Jonathan remained stone-faced. "Not at all. In fact, it's legally binding and your signature is on every page." Vanessa turned to me, eyes wide with shock. "Lucas, babe, we need to talk about this privately." I tilted my head. "Why? I thought you didn't love me. I thought I was just a temporary husband." Her breathing turned erratic. That was just girl talk. It didn't mean anything. Jonathan cleared his throat, flipping another page. Actually, it did. Thanks to Mr. Carter's private investigation, we have chat logs, recordings, and evidence proving your intent to commit financial fraud. Vanessa gasped. You spied on me? She shrieked. Oh, relax, I said, mimicking her usual dismissive tone. It was just a formality. I trust you, remember? Her hands were shaking now. She frantically turned to Jonathan. This can't be legal. I'll fight this in court. Jonathan didn't even blink. You're welcome to try, but you'd be wasting your time and money, especially since per the agreement, you're required to cover all legal fees for both parties in the event of a challenge. She looked like she was about to be sick. I could see it in her eyes. Reality was finally sinking in. She wasn't getting half. She wasn't getting anything. And worse, she actually owed me money. The next few weeks were glorious. Vanessa tried to fight it, but the prenup was airtight. Her friends found out everything and started roasting her in group chats. She became a joke on social media, exposed as a gold digger who got played. Even her own family turned on her. Her mom called me one night, saying, I raised her better than this. She deserves what she got. That was satisfying. But the best part? The look on her face when she realized she had ruined her own life. Vanessa didn't just lose the divorce settlement, she lost everything. For years, she had carefully curated her image, playing the role of the sophisticated, high-value woman who had her life together. Now, she was nothing more than a walking punchline. It started slowly. The first cracks formed when Chelsea and Lauren, her closest friends, dropped her. Not because they were suddenly morally superior, but because nobody likes being associated with a public disaster. Screenshots of her temporary husband texts started circulating among mutual friends, ex-colleagues, and even family. People who once admired her for securing a successful man now mocked her for getting played. Her social media followers plummeted. She became a meme in private group chats. Her friends started joking about how she went from soon-to-be rich to financially ruined overnight. She tried to fight back, posting vague "I'm the real victim here" rants. But nobody was buying it. Even the people who had supported her plan were embarrassed for her. Because nobody respects a con artist who fails. The financial fallout hit harder than the social one. She was forced to move out of our luxury apartment and into a tiny rental. Her credit cards, maxed out. Her shopping addiction, unfunded. The lifestyle she flaunted online, completely unsustainable. For the first time in years, Vanessa had to actually work. She applied for marketing jobs, but employers Googled her name. And what did they find? Screenshots of her scheme. People in professional circles discussing her failed con. Nobody wanted to hire the woman known for trying to scam her husband, so she settled for a low-paying retail job. From brunching at luxury hotels to folding clothes at a mall. It was poetic justice. I hadn't seen Vanessa in months, didn't think about her, didn't care. Until one day I walked into a coffee shop, and there she was, sitting alone. She looked different. The confidence, gone. The smugness, replaced with exhaustion. She had aged 10 years and 6 months. She saw me, and for a moment I could tell she debated running, but instead she gave a weak, defeated smile. Lucas, hey, Vanessa. She hesitated, then sighed. I deserved it, didn't I? I took a slow sip of my coffee, then set it down. Yes, her eyes shone with unshed tears. I lost everything. No, I corrected. You threw everything away. She swallowed hard, trembling. I thought I was being smart, she admitted. I held up a hand. I don't care. She flinched. I just wanted to apologize, she whispered. I met her gaze, calm, unforgiving, unmoved. You're not sorry, I said. You're just regretting the consequences. She blinked rapidly, fighting back tears. I stood up, throwing a few bills on the table. Good luck, Vanessa. And I walked away, because I was finally free.